Welcome to my table. My name is Daniel. And I'm just a guy who's identified how loved and adored I am by God. It's my passion and my purpose in life to help everyone I meet understand their place of value to the heart of God and their place in the kingdom of God. One of the ways that I've been allowed to do this is to write a book called Solomon's Song. It's a 90-day devotional that takes the Song of Solomon and takes all 8 chapters and breaks it down to a daily love letter from God. It was through the Song of Solomon that God opened my eyes to understand His heart for me. I firmly believe that we can only give away what we understand we fully have. And the reason why most of us give away a love for other people that's shallow and performance-based is because that's the kind of love that we have received from God. That's the kind of love that we perceive from God. And so the value of a study like this is to go through and take the symbols and the pictures of the couple in Song of Solomon and really draw from those parallels an understanding of where I stand and where you stand to God and to His heart. And so today we're actually on day number 31 of our study, and we are in Song of Solomon chapter 3 and verse number 4. And just to sort of set this up a little bit, if you remember right, just a few videos ago, the bride woke up, the groom was gone, and she went looking for him. And she was forced to make a decision to go for the man or be content to have the memory. And most of the time in the Christian life, we're more content, it seems like, to have the memory of what the King has done in our life in the past instead of really exploring what the King can do in our life in the present. And most of us live our Christian life and just sort of pass by and miss out on all the stuff that God has for us just because our eyes are closed. We're not awake to Him or to His presence, and we're kind of trapped in the comfort zones that we set up. And so she wakes up, she feels the bed, he's not there. She says, I got to make a decision. Either I stay here with the content with the memory of what I experienced with the King, or I get up and I go after him. And she was determined to find him. So she gets up, and we talked about how she went to different places looking for him and didn't find him, and how discouraging that was. But then how her search led her to people that she gravitated to. And it's important in our search for God, in our search for relationship with God, is going to draw us across the path of other people. And that's part of the search. But we can never confuse those people with the actual source, with God. And so she finds the watchman, and we're going to revisit some of that later. But we found out when she went to look for him, but she still couldn't find him. And if you're going to ask, seek, and knock God for God, you've got to be willing to do that apart from everyone else. You've got to be willing to find Him for yourself. It's not enough to have your pastors walk with God. It's not enough to have a spiritual leaders walk with God. It's not enough to have your mama, your grandmother, your husband, your wife, your children, your parents. Not enough to have their walk with God. You've got to have it for yourself. And that only comes by one way. It comes by asking and seeking and knocking, and be willing to unlearn some things that you've learned in order to relearn what God has for you today in this moment. And so she was searching for Him, and that's what we're going to pick up today. Song of Solomon chapter 3 and verse number 4. If you've ever heard that song, Barbara Streisand sings it, I finally found someone. When you listen to the song, she's singing about finally finding this person for her life, and how happy she was because she says, I finally found the one, and she's all excited about it. And this is exactly what we're going to see. We're going to see the earlier version, the pre-Barbara Streisand version of that song played out in just a second, but there's a powerful message that I can't wait to show you. Song of Solomon chapter 3 and verse number 4 says this, It was but a little while that I passed from them. There's a key there. She didn't find him necessarily at the watchman, and you're not always going to find God in your life with people. You're going to have to be willing to step out away from what's familiar sometimes in order to find what's true. You have to be willing to step out on your own and find that for yourself. He says, but I found him whom my soul loveth. Now remember, our soul is consistent of our mind, our will, and our emotions. This wasn't just a surface love for her. This is someone that she truly gravitated to from everything that she has. And I found him whom my soul loveth. And then it goes on. She says this, I held him and would not let him go. And I love that passage because when the bride finds Solomon, she determined that nothing was ever going to pull her attention away from him ever again. She spent all of her life at this point looking for the kind of person Solomon was. She spent all of her life looking for the type of relationship that she has, and she was determined to protect that, spend the rest of her life protecting that relationship. She said, I've sought him, and I've searched for him, and I found him, and I grabbed him, and I held him, and it's like the slow motion, she's running across the bridge, the snow is falling down, it's the Paris, the Eiffel Tower in the background, whatever, but she grabs him, she just grabs him and says, I found him, and I'm never going to let him go. I am not letting this one go. I spent my whole life searching for this, and I'm going to spend the rest of my life protecting this relationship that I found. And it's awesome to me that she found this love, and this was the one that she spent her life dreaming about. You know, when she was in the vineyards and when she was trying to imagine this person, what her person would be. You know, we all do that when you're younger. You kind of get in your head, you kind of imagine what the person is going to be. They're either tall, dark, handsome, they're short, wide, and blonde, or whatever it is that you thought about with when you in your mind's eye, that special person. They're going to be funny, or they're going to be irritable, or whatever, like those qualities that you put with people. Say, this is what this person's going to be for me. I can't wait. This is what we're going to do on our anniversary, and this is what we're going to do. This is the kind of movie we're going to watch together. This is the kind of music we're going to dance in the kitchen to. And you put all of these things together in your head, and sometime over time we sort of abandoned that. But man, she hadn't. She clung to it, and here she finally found it, and she experienced it, because he really did exist. This wasn't just some fantasy for her. This wasn't just some dream of something that, girl, you just better settle, because you're going to spend your whole life single waiting on Mr. Right, and Mr. Right now is right here. You know, she didn't. She wouldn't let that just sway her. Man, she finally found the one. And I believe with all my heart that she knew about this when Solomon brought her into the garden. She knew this when Solomon first picked her up at her house, and we're going to get into that later. When you see that, it'll blow you away. It's such an amazing story. But she spent her whole life dreaming about this, and he really did exist. And when she experienced him, any other need that she had for fulfillment just disappeared. Like when she experienced him. And I just gotta say that once you experience God, when you truly experience him in your life, all the other sources that you would have spent your time and energy and resources trying to track down and live for, the need for those sources dissipates. It's gone. Once you truly experience him, the need for affirmation from another person falls away. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't feel good to have someone say, hey, you're doing a good job, or hey, I really like this, or hey, that's a good quality about you, but honestly, the need for that falls away. The need to have that from someone else, the need to have that security from someone else falls away, because you found it. So she said, I finally found him whom my soul loved. I held him, and I would never let him go. You won't be content with any other outside source. I love this, that she held him and she wouldn't let him go. And she did that because she knew Solomon wasn't going to get tired of her. You want to say that God is not bothered or put off by your needs. He's not thrown off by your constant need from his attention. He doesn't go, you're thirsty. God never says anyone's thirsty. He says, if any man thirsts, let him come to me. He's like, I'm looking for thirsty. If you're thirsty, come on. That's what he says. He says, look, if any man thirsts, but man, run to him. Grab him tight. Man, maybe you've never run and grabbed God, and I just want to challenge you, grab him today. Man, just say, God, I'm thirsty for you, and I've got to have you in my life. Don't be afraid to let all your emotions go with God. He's not going to be scared off by anything. He doesn't think you're crazy. Don't be afraid to tell God what you're thinking in your heart, because he's not. He knows it already. But number two, he desires you. He desires relationship with you. He desires communication with you. He created you and gave you the ability to access him. And he gave you Christ. He gave you John 3:16 for a reason. It wasn't so you can just take salvation and sort of stand in the background. No, he said, I gave you John 3:16 so you can grab me, that you can put your arms around me and hold on to me, and that you can be one with me. I made that way possible. I gave you the ability to pray. I gave you the ability to speak in your heart, and I will hear it from, man, I'm not interested in you hiding your feelings or trying to think maybe you bother me, or maybe call me up in the middle of the day. Call me at work is what he says. He says, man, don't be afraid of that. I welcome you. I welcome your attention. I welcome your need. I welcome your desire. I welcome your problems. I welcome your heartaches. I welcome your pain. I welcome your confusions. I welcome all the disappointments that you have, that you struggle with. He says, I welcome those things. Man, I made a way. If I didn't want that, I wouldn't have made a way for you. I made a way for you because I welcome you. Grab him as tightly as you can. And when you do, never let him go. Never. I gotta ask you a question, because I ask a question every time we get together. And my question for this day's devotional is this: what has God meant to you? You can't ask. That's not just a yes or no question. It's not one you can just sort of say, oh, he's cool. Oh, yeah, he's cool. No, what has God meant to you? Like, what has he meant? What has having him in your life meant to you? Second question, what needs has he met in your life since you found him? And when she embraced the king, she said, I found him whom my soul loves. Now, between chapter 1 and chapter 3, she has completely dropped her defenses. And we start our journey with God somewhat apprehensive, and just kind of, I'm not really sure what I want to believe yet, but I don't know. And then by chapter 2 of her life, she was just taking little timid steps in what he said. He was just observing it, taking it in. He says this about me. I'm going to start to take it in. And then before as long, she says, I'm going to speak this over myself. Now, I'm the Rose of Sharon. Remember, she spoke that out. And now she's at this point where she just says, hey, listen, I've decided to love you with my mind, with my will, and with my emotions. And she loved him because of all of the things that he added to her, what he made her, how she felt when she was with him. What needs has God met in your life since you've met him, since you found him? It was never when God found me over in this place here. No. God knew exactly where I was. When you found God, when you opened your eyes, when your eyes were open, you discovered him. What has he meant in your life? I challenge you to think about those two things today. Meditate on those two things. Think about them. Think about them. What has God met in your life? What does he mean to you, and what needs has he met in your life? That's day number 31. I cannot wait for the next video. The next video, we're gonna give you the ultimate relationship test. This is the one. This is the big kahuna. This is the ultimate relationship test for any relationship. You're going to see this here on the next video we talk about. Thank you so much for being with me today. I hope you have a fantastic day today. God bless you now. Bye-bye.